Story 1. Long enough to enjoy life, see a few generations grow up, and hopefully remain healthy enough to go out with dignity. Story 2. Ideally, old enough to feel like I truly lived, but still sharp enough to know when it is time to go with dignity. Story 3. I am 54, and my grandson is 4. I would like at least another 20 years to see him into adulthood. On the other hand, death scares me, so how about another 1,000 years or so? Story 4. I am 51 years old and have severe depression. The answer is 51. Edit. Whoever reported me to Reddit Care Resources because you were bothered by a frowny face, the joke is on you because I blocked that account years ago. Story 5. Anytime past 85 and I will be happy. I want to grow old with my fiancé and experience many decades with him. I have also always dreamed of dying within a relatively short time of each other, but I know that is unlikely. Story 6. I am 52 and had to retire last year due to ill health. It has been rough for the past 2 years, and it is no fun. As others have said, it is about quality of life rather than wanting to die. Waking up in pain every day is not enjoyable. However, I do not much like the alternative. Story 7. I want to watch the heat death of the universe and see what happens next because I have a theory based on no science whatsoever. The heat death will not be when all heat is gone from the universe. What is going to happen is once all the heat has perfectly spread across the universe evenly, it will start getting hotter and hotter, and the pressure will build until there is another Big Bang, leading to a new level of existence. I would like my atoms to be scattered in that, or maybe I will live through it and get to see what all that new stuff is about. I want a Vandal Savage kind of situation. I want to live through the boredom and the excitement. I want to beg for death and scream proud defiance that I will never die. I want to take over countries and then spend a century watching the fire dance on the cave walls. Story 8. I want a letter from the king or queen at 106 because I hate odd numbers. 102 and 104 do not seem as impressive as 106. Story 9. Age is just a number. It all depends on circumstances. I want to die when I decline in a way that I cannot move anymore or I am losing my mind. Story 10. 70 years if we are talking about a normal human, maybe longer depending on how my life goes and how healthy and fit I am. In fantasy terms, maybe around 300 to 500 years as long as I am healthy. Maybe longer. It depends on how much there is to learn about magic and related subjects. Story 11. In my 60s, I see very little good in growing old. Skin sags, you become less attractive, organs start failing, movement becomes difficult, memory declines, and so on. I do not want to stick around for that, and I refuse to have someone take care of such personal needs for me. Story 12. In my 30s, if I can make it that far. I am scared of others dying before me, and I want to go in the way I choose. Story 13. Honestly, I could go for late 40s. Life has not been great so far, and I do not see a reason to continue past that. Story 14. It's not the length of life, but the depth of life. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Any time after the last person who depends on me no longer depends on me, that's when I'll be ready. Story 15. I do not want to live too long and become a ghoul that depends on other people to even use the restroom. Maybe 78. Story 16. I kind of resent the reality of mortality. I would rather be bored for 1,000,000 years than die once. Story 17. Like 90, maybe 100. I just want to be well enough to go out, do things, and keep my mind healthy. Story 18. Not a specific number, really. As long as I am relatively independent and active, I would like to be alive. But if I am ever bedridden or require major assistance with my daily life, I would get my advance directive in order. Sign a do not resuscitate order, bring it to every local hospital, and make sure my power of attorney knows my wishes. Story 19. I am a big fan of science fiction, so I like the idea of living several centuries and then uploading to the cloud or something similar. Story 20. 114. That is the oldest I have seen someone live. My only reason. I am very curious and want to know what is going on in the world before I go. Story 21. Trying to make it to 100 would be awesome to see another turn of the century 115. But I will probably go down in my 80s. Story 22. I thought my life would be significant with my horoscope sister, Janis Joplin. I understand the thin line between genius and insanity, misunderstanding, and my desire to bridge communication gaps between others who would not take the initiative. Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? Story 23. Never. Too many things to do. I am jealous of future generations. We have so much stuff. Books, movies, games. Those people who will be born in 1,000 years might still have access to most, if not all, of it. So much to choose from. 1,000 years of quality media and entertainment. So many great things yet to come. An eternity of stories. But at least I was able to experience the emergence of the internet and the challenges that have come with it, social media. What a time to be alive. Story 24. Ideally, it would have been about 13 years ago. Life feels too tedious now, and I am not getting what I want out of it. Story 25. 85 to 90. I want to be there for my children for as long as possible. I was 40 when I became a father, so I would like to see them grow in love and hopefully have families of their own. Beyond 90, I guess every day is painful, and your faculties are struggling. Story 26. Well, I am 37, so any time would be okay as long as it is quick. I am not saying I want to die, but it sure would solve a lot of problems. I do not know my medical history. Retirement is a pipe dream at this point, and the industry I work in is hard on the body. I do not want to be doing it in my 50s. Story 27. I do not care as long as I have my mind. As soon as cognitive decline is on the horizon, especially due to illness, that is when I would like to go. Story 28. My family dies young. I am pretty satisfied with just living longer than my parents so they do not have to bury their child. I have lived well. I am tired. Story 29. I will be happy to make it to 60. After that, it is either a bonus or a curse. There are still a few things I would like to do with my life, and I am sure I can do them by that time. Story 30. Well, last night I saw a psychic and she said I have around 2,000 years left, so I'll probably die when I am 3001. Story 31. Everyone who says leaving before age 62 is leaving their money in the Social Security Fund for others. You paid into it. You might as well enjoy it. Story 32. As long as I am able to take care of myself physically and am mentally present, I want to live. If I cannot do those things, I have zero interest in being alive anymore, no matter what age. Story 33. I am 75 years old. I have had some good experiences. I do not want to die in pain and receiving palliative care. I have started to lose interest in life. Story 34. In the challenges of menopause and the heat wave this week, it is already bringing me closer to my maker. Now is good. Story 35. Because why would not I? Story 36. Whenever Allah, the Almighty, calls for me, I hope it is gentle. I do not want to die while I am attached to something unfinished or incomplete. I do not want to leave with regrets. Story 37. I am 70 years old and currently have bacterial bronchitis and a sinus infection. Right now, I yearn for the sweet release of death. Story 38. I have plans for at least the next 1,000 years. I am 63 years old. I feel the same as at 30, in excellent shape, wiser, and better off financially. I have no intention of dying. Story 39. I am 47 years old, and the last couple of years have been really bad. I want to say this now, but I think if I manage to turn it around, the number will get much higher. Story 40. 60 to 80, depending on health. I have definitely damaged my lungs vaping for the past 3 years and am working on quitting right now. I broke my spine in a car accident a month or two ago. By then, it is acceptable for me to take a hydrocodone and go get mojitos at 10 a.m., so I think my pain will be managed, especially if marijuana is legal. Finances will also play a role. If, for whatever reason, I cannot support myself by age 60, there is no real point. In summary, 60 if my health is poor and finances are bad. 80 if I am doing well financially. Story 41. I do not know. We will see how I feel in my 30s and 40s. I just have a feeling those 2 decades are going to be difficult. Story 42. 10,000. I want to see how things work out and if humans manage to survive that long. I cannot think of a reason to die sooner except for the whole body thing. Story 43. As soon as the medicine I am taking starts to truly degenerate my body, I am just trying not to suffer after that. Eastern Standard Time, I think 50s. Story 44. I would say around 80, old enough to have lived a full, meaningful life and seen the people I love grow, but hopefully still healthy and sharp enough to enjoy it all. Story 45. Somewhere past 80. I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer last year at 37. The thought of not being there to see my son graduate high school and college, get his first job, get married, or have a family of his own terrifies me. I have a huge fear of missing out on the things my family would do. I also know that if I go before my husband, he would never move past that. No matter how much I would want him to move on, I do not think he would. Knowing he would be devastated makes me sad beyond words. Story 46. After my mother leaves, I am ready to go. I already have health issues that will not improve, and I do not look forward to future problems arising. Story 47. I'm not stupid. No one lives forever. No one. But with advances in modern science and my high level of income, it is not crazy to think I can live to be 245, maybe 300. Story 48. Honestly, I want to live to be over 120 years old. I want people to make a television show about me and ask why I lived so long. Then I would tell the world my secret. I put a pineapple in my body every morning at sunrise. I think I can die peacefully knowing I inspired someone to do the same. Story 49. I think about this a lot, recently anyway. Either today, right now, this very moment, or never. Story 50. I love all the people here saying they want to die at 1 year old because they do not understand how markdown works. Story 51. 80 would be fair because I do not want to be a burden to anyone. At least by then, I will know I have fulfilled my purpose here. Story 52. Honestly, if I had my druthers, somewhere between 300 and 500. If I aged like an elf or Dundane or whatever, like slow aging, and lived a few centuries, I would be all for it. Story 53. I am 20, so this may change in a few years, but I would like it to be at 50 to 55. I have always had a fear of growing old. Story 54. The root answer would be anytime now. However, I have to be responsible for my son, so at least I have that going for me. Story 55. I have paid into Social Security all my life. I want my money back. To achieve this, considering the intentions of the grand old party to reduce benefits and increase the retirement age, it is the only way to get my money back. Story 56. 27 here. Ideally 27. But if I must persist, either whenever I become physically or mentally incapable of living a fulfilling, enjoyable life anymore. 75, approximately. Whichever comes first. Story 57. Also, there are a lot of negative replies here. I guarantee that everything may seem hopeless, but I also guarantee that there are resources for you. Yes, you. That will help ensure you do not miss out on the best part of your life. Story 58. Not this one for sure because I am not done yet. I always said if I made it to 80, I would be doing speedballs until the Lord said it was time, and I stand by that. Story 59. Considering where things are headed in the next 50 years, if I live beyond 60, I will be very upset. Story 60. Whenever I start struggling to enjoy life, not like depression, but if I can't move or I am on hospice, it is just torture. You put down a struggling dog or cat. Why keep a struggling human with really no hope of getting better? If I am basically a vegetable, I do not think there is a reason. Story 61. Preferably in my 70s or 80s depending on my health. If I ever have to rely on a machine to move around or breathe, I would rather be taken outside and euthanized. Story 62. Depends. If I stopped aging right now, I would not mind living forever. Otherwise, I have no objection to when. Story 63. At least 57, just because my dad died of colon cancer at 56 and it was too young. But I am already 51 and in a good place in life. Not rich at all but healthy, with my own house, a beautiful wife and 3 children. I want to live at least up to 80, if not 90. The only thing I want as I get old is not to put one of my children to rest before I die. Story 64. I'm 85 years old and have a chronic illness with an accurate prognosis from my doctor. I want to be able to make my own arrangements and say proper goodbyes to my loved ones. Story 65. I would love to live well into my hundreds, but I probably have a better chance of winning the lottery than living past 100. Story 66. I would like to die when I feel there is nothing more to my life. It could be next year or 100 years from now, but whenever I feel like I have done everything I wanted to do, accomplished everything I want to accomplish, and have no more use to give to myself and to others, I will be happy to pass. Story 67. At least 70. Not a single one of my grandparents made it out of their 60s, with my paternal grandfather dying in his 40s. I just want to live longer than they did. Story 68. I have no attachment to this world, no reason to keep going, and silently hope I go to bed tonight and never wake up. Story 69. I do not have a specific age in mind, but it should not be after a full day of work if I am still working when the time comes. Story 70. Between 60 and 70. Being old looks miserable and uncomfortable, and I think I will be quite depressed by then and ready to go. I might change my answer to 40 to 50 depending on how society turns out in the upcoming years. Story 71. 24 years ago, I wished I had died during birth. I almost did, but that was not enough. I hate every single moment of life, and it has been like this since I was 9 years old. Even before then, I was very angry every day, but I started hating my own existence when I was 9. Story 72. I do not care about age, but I have always thought it would be cool to die on my birthday and have my birth and death dates, excluding the year, match on my gravestone. Story 73. If I make it to 80, I think I will be pretty happy. Even 75 maybe, but I want a fairly quick death. I do not want to battle health issues for years. Story 74. I just want to live long enough to take care of my 3 dogs. After that, I can die. Maybe 10 more years, which would put me at 50. Story 75. I just want to avoid being unable to care for myself. When it's time, send me off with some psilocybin mushrooms so I can enjoy the experience. Story 76. I want to live enough so that I can be a young adult and have fun and live in my own house. After that, I do not really have any plans. Story 77. I do not have a specific age, but I would like to pass away in a quick and painless manner at the same time as all of my immediate family. This way, no one has to lose anyone and deal with the fallout. Story 78. I am not sure at what age, but I hope to see the Toronto Maple Leafs win a Stanley Cup before I die. That is for sure. The age at which I will see this is uncertain. Story 79. If I could get a firm yes that I would live to about 75 or 80 and be in good health until the day I die, I would be happy. Story 80. Whenever I stop thriving and start just existing, I would not want to burden my loved ones with caring for me when I am nothing but a shell. I would want to be remembered at my best. Story 81. I have chronic illnesses, chronic pain, and fatigue. I am 14 years old, so honestly, I do not want it to get worse. Maybe around 70. Story 82. I love to live, but I do not want to lose my mind and become unable to care for myself in a wheelchair. I see many elderly people who have lost their mental clarity, and their relatives are forced to suffer or make the difficult decision to place them in a nursing home where they will spend the rest of their days in distress. This is my biggest fear, and if this happens to me, I will be ready to die. Story 83. 69 because obviously I am already pretty tired of the day-to-day grind, so by then I will probably be really tired, boss. Story 84. Anytime now. My body is getting worse. Disability is hard to obtain even though everyone says I qualify. I do not like to be morbid, but I have experienced so much in so little time, mostly bad. I am just so tired. I wish I could rest with someone instead of constantly surviving, or just rest. Story 85. In my 80s, old with the love of my life, I have seen my children and grandchildren grow up. I have done everything I want to do, am young enough to be able to do things myself, and old enough to help younger people in my life. I will be content if I live into my 80s. Story 86, 34. Because life was exactly what I had hoped for. I was confident and, for the first and only time, content. So 13 years ago, on the cusp of everything falling apart, would have been just right. Story 87. My grandfather wanted to live to 100, perhaps to mark the new century or his personal century milestone. He did not make it but survived well into his 90s. He was strong of body and mind, outliving several spouses. In my youth, I took it for granted as normal but now see he was the exception. Always prioritize quality over quantity. Story 88. It's funny, I told my parents my entire life I was going to die at 28 years old. Fast forward to last year when I turned 28. I was diagnosed with heart failure, tumors on my kidneys, and thyroid cancer revealing itself. Luckily, I recently turned 29. I don't want to set a year for my death anymore. The universe does not mess around. Story 89. I date a lot of older men, and that is when they seem to start losing mental sharpness and physical fitness. Story 90. Thought 50 because I lost my mom and my husband at that age. I am broke and unhappy now at 62. So any time after my 13-year-old dog passes will be fine. Story 91. In my bed when I am 80, with a belly full of wine and a woman's mouth around me. Sounds like an okay way to go in time. Story 92. I feel like 21 was when the decline started. If I could pick an age, it would be 21. Someone go back in time and kill me. Thank you. Story 93, 100, and if we have good enough technology, maybe longer if I can even make it that far. Why? I want to live that long just to see if I can make it, and I want to experience everything that I can. If I end up getting dementia, then I hope someone puts me down so I do not suffer. Story 94. No older than 75. Long enough to live a life where I feel fulfilled, assuming I achieve what I want to, which I don't feel confident about, while not being so long that I start to take more than my share, so to speak. I don't want to be sitting around hogging a house and clogging up a healthcare system in a world that should belong to the generations younger than me. Nor do I want to end up in a care home or other living situation where I can't look after myself. It's undignified and not fair on my hypothetical children. I personally dislike when I see those videos of here are 6 generations of our family. Great-grandma, 86, grandma, 71, mom, 54, me, 37, daughter, 19, granddaughter, 18 months. That's too many generations. Story 95. I have wanted to die since I was 19. I am 26 now. I have a condition that causes tumors to grow in my body. I have had over 20 surgeries, including 10 brain surgeries that have left me completely deaf, blind in one eye, and basically robbed me of my independence. It is not much of a life. I feel like a waste of space at this point. Story 96. The day I can no longer play sports is the day I am fine with death. I am talking about not even being able to kick a ball because my body is so old. I just could not live like that. Story 97. In 10 to 15 years, life without love but filled with violence and a large amount of gaslighting is utterly meaningless. You are even expected to gaslight yourself, and your own view of your life is punished. Story 98. As a male with average genetics around 50 years old, I take solid care of my health. However, the inevitable decline in health will come someday around that age, and I do not want to live a single second with declining health. Story 99. I used to say 107 and a few months because I wanted to see 2100. Then I could say I lived in 3 different centuries and 2 millenniums. But the way things are going, I think maybe 90 is good enough for me. Story 100. Everyone I know, including family and personal friends, experienced a steep decline after age 86. They no longer lived with joy, were no longer autonomous, no longer made their own decisions, and were either in pain or suffered a severe loss of dignity. I reject that. Story 101. It's not about age but about when I am no longer capable of taking care of myself and become a burden. I told my wife that when I start soiling myself, I think it will be time. However, I had to change my statement earlier this year after food poisoning and add, if I cannot clean myself up. Story 102. I am 68 years old, and I would love to live as long as my grandmother, who lived to 107, but I do not think that is realistic. I have several health issues that concern me, mainly related to heart health, which she did not have. She lived a much healthier lifestyle than I have so far. She was an avid gardener and a Clemson football fan who walked a lot. I would like to live about another 20 years, or as long as I am able to function well. I do not want to die from dementia like my parents did, as that is very hard to live with. Story 103. Currently 68 years old and in decent health. Diabetes is under control but slightly overweight. I still get around and work part-time. I would like to reach 75 years in good condition and 80 years overall. Story 104. I am 42, and if I make it 18 more years, I am good. I like to drink and am not going to quit. I take prescription medications that are bad for my kidneys. My glomerular filtration rate is already at 56. I have no wife or children. My father is already gone, and my mother will be gone by then too. My brother, who is 16 years older, probably will not be around then. There is no need to grow old. It is usually an indignity anyway. Story 105. Whenever my mother does, no matter how many verbal arguments we have had, I still love her and cannot imagine life without her, especially in this harsh world today. Story 106. In the late 1990s, I was born very early in the century, and seeing the next century sounds distressing to me. Story 107. Right now, as soon as possible, I actually thought the other day how I wish I had died shortly after the coronavirus disease epidemic, but since I cannot go back in time, any minute now would be great. Story 108. Preferably never, because having a fixed expiration date takes away all the motivation to live. Why even bother doing anything if I am just going to lose it all once I die? All my knowledge, skills, achievements, memories, and possessions will be gone once I die. I think having eternal life, or at least until you yourself decide to end it, would finally give living meaning and purpose. Story 109. Give me 85. It seems everything goes wrong after that year for my family, so why not avoid dealing with that? Story 110. I do not know. I am single right now, but I just hope one day I get to see my granddaughters or grandsons' weddings. Then I will be ready. I want to be the person who says, "This all happened because I got laid. But for this to happen, I need to find a wife first." To be honest, probably the hardest part of this. Story 111. I really do not mind what age it is, as long as I do not die a protracted and painful death. Please let it be swift, with time to say farewell to my loved ones. Story 112. I had my son at 42 and want to live long enough to see him grown and with his own family. Long enough so I will know he will be okay. Long enough to hopefully meet my grandchildren and for them to remember me. His grandfather passed away on his second birthday this year, and he won't really have any recollection of him, which makes me sad. At 102, he will be 60. I think that is good enough time, but if forever were an option, I would take that too. The idea of leaving him too soon because I had him so late in life haunts me every night. Story 113. It is not a specific age. I want to die before I become a full-fledged member of the medical system that drains my family's inheritance, which I worked so hard for my entire life. I want it to be for them, not for the medical system. I do not want my family to extend my life if all that means is sitting through appointments, being in hospital beds, immobile, wearing diapers, waiting in waiting rooms, taking numerous medications, or living in an unpleasant retirement home. Please unplug me. Story 114. I believe it is okay. I do not have much to do here. Maybe there are better things waiting for me on the other side. Story 115. Every single person here wants to live forever. It is our natural intuition. The only reason we would ever desire death is because we want to avoid death, decay, or suffering. If those were eliminated, nobody would ever be tired of life. No, you would not get bored, not even after many millennia. That is just your current perception of life speaking again. Story 116. 80 or 90. I'm 19 now and think that would give me enough time to live my life, start a family, and have fun adventures with my future children and then future grandchildren. Story 117. I do not know an exact number, but the moment I cannot live my life on my own and need help, then I will be ready to wrap it up. Story 118. Despite all the jokes about not being alive, I want to live a long, stable life. I want to experience all emotions and do many things, especially since I was deprived of them in my teen years. However, I do not want to suffer or live to an age where I am suffering and become a burden to those around me. I would say about 82 years. Story 119. 500. I love watching the evolution of things. I am very curious to know how life will be, what technological advancements have been made, how much further we have gone in space, and so on several hundred years from now. Assuming I am still sane after living so long. Story 120. I am currently 19 and slowly starting to realize that my life will be a series of jumping through hoops and obstacles until I give up. I do not necessarily have a sudden urge to die, but I cannot help thinking that I do not want to live much longer. Story 121. My year 2000 New Year's resolution was to live to see the year 3000. I have always been told I look much younger than my age of 43, and they say only the good die young. Story 122. I want to die when I am around 70 or 80 years old. My family has a history of mental health issues, so I do not want anyone who takes care of me to have to go through that. Story 123. Either 80 or 32, I want to know I can live a full life. I don't want to just be getting started, gain false hope, and die in an accident or from cancer or something. I think I would almost just rather get it over with now. Story 124. 85 to 90. I would like to see my wife reach retirement and my youngest daughter become an adult, successful with a career. I worry about leaving them too soon and unprepared. Story 125. 50 is a good age because living half a century is long enough. Who wants to reach their elder years when you will most likely have dentures, lose your hearing, wear diapers, and if you are lucky, have someone willing to care for you? Otherwise, you are stuck in a nursing home until you die. 50 is a good age. Story 126. I just think it would be wonderful to live a long and fulfilling life. I want to be that great-great-great-grandmother in photos, wrinkled and carried around with a little old shawl. Story 127. My dad always said he would live to 150 and be killed by a jealous husband. He did not make it. He only made it to 82. I hope to make it to 82. Story 128. As a kid, I loved Spider-Man 2099. I want to live and experience that whole year. Hopefully, the world looks like the Spider-Man 2099 world with flying cars and skyscrapers. I highly doubt it, though, but still, I want to live that year. Story 129. There is no specific age. I just want to watch my children grow and avoid reaching a point where my quality of life is diminished. Story 130. If you had asked me before I met my fiancée, I would have said 10 years ago. I never expected to see 40 anyway. Now, I want to live forever, although realistically, before I become incapacitated or incapable of taking care of myself. Story 131. As long as life feels good to live. I do not want a long illness at the end. Hopefully, I reach at least 85 with decent health. Story 132. I don't have a particular age in mind, but I would like to still have as many mental faculties as possible even if my body is a bit worse for wear. Whatever age that is fine with me. My great-grandmother lived to 98 and was still sharp. I feel like that bodes well for my genetics. My other grandparents were in their 80s but probably would have lived longer if they had not been heavy smokers until the end. As for the reason, I think it is a tremendous privilege to grow old, but I do not want to grow old if I am not still myself in my thoughts. Story 133. Never. I enjoy life and being alive, experiencing sunsets, meteor showers, and hiking through the mountains, but I dislike people. As long as the world is beautiful, I want to experience it. Story 134. I wanted it to be a Widowmaker heart attack on my bike at 85, just lights out during a nice ride. Now I have lost the ability to ride due to injury, so whatever, 45 or 50 I guess. Story 135. I think human life should only last until 60. I have seen post-60 health issues start to peak, and I do not want to be a burden on my immediate family because of health problems. Story 136. If I make it to 2101, I will live to see the 22nd century. I will technically be able to say I have lived through 3 different centuries, having been alive in the 20th, 21st, and 22nd centuries. Story 137. Before I start losing my mind, it's hard to see elderly people unable to remember their family or even be aware when they need to go to the bathroom in nursing homes. Story 138. I do not want to get old. I am 40 right now, and I am ready to go anytime. I am not scared of dying. The sooner, the better. Story 139. I had breast cancer, which can recur in the next few years. I have also had melanoma. I am concerned that I may not live to an old age, as pancreatic cancer runs in my family. I want to see my boys graduate. I am hoping to live at least until age 65. After that, I am prepared to pass away. Story 140. As soon as I am unable to go to the bathroom by myself, I do not want to inconvenience my children or nursing home workers when they have to assist me with personal hygiene. Story 141. Anywhere between 26 and 38. I think that is enough for me to experience the things I care to experience unless something changes. Story 142. I think 75 is a good age, long enough to have grandchildren, hopefully, but not so long as to become frail. I am 21 without children right now. Story 143. Currently, I want to die around 70 to 75 years old. I receive 24 intravenous infusions a year and do not want to continue indefinitely. I am also genetically predisposed to Parkinson's disease. I do not want to end up like family members, as it looks miserable. I also want to die before my wife. Estimated time of arrival. If medical advances occur, maybe I will change my mind. Story 144. I do not want to be dependent on anyone to help with personal care. If it reaches the point where I can no longer manage on my own, that would be sufficient. Story 145. 75 to 80 because my children will be old enough that they will not need me, I hope. Our generation faced difficulties with retirement, and I do not want to burden my children when I am older. I am saving to retire, hoping I can give a good portion to my children so they will have an advantage, something I was not afforded by my parents. Story 146. I used to never want to die because I was afraid of the unknown. However, I got sick a few years ago and now suffer all the time. During the first year of my illness, I was ready to go and still welcome it to this day. I am 46 years old, have 2 adult children, 2 granddogs, and 1 grandkitten. Story 147. I like the number 77. Because of all the elderly people in my family, I know how difficult it can be past 60. I want to have children who may have children, and if so, I would like to meet them. Story 148. I have always had the age 84 in my mind for no particular reason. My maternal side lives long, and my paternal side does not, so I guess that 84 averages it out. Story 149. When it stops being fun. There are many elderly people where I live, and many of them seem absolutely miserable. Story 150. It depends on how I am functioning. If my body and mind fail me completely today, then the age is my current age. Now, I just need to hold the body failures at bay. Story 151. Any age that my mind goes. Any age that cancer has a full grip. And any time a work meeting could have been an email. Story 152. Honestly, I am kind of just waiting to live as long as my animals. So maybe another 10 to 15 years. I would be almost 50. I have always said I did not want to live past 60. Story 153. It's a really difficult question. About 3 years ago, I had thoughts that I wanted to die at age 16 to 18. But now I'm 16, and I have been thinking about death over the past year. It wasn't suicidal thoughts. I have been thinking about death, its meaning, and about what may happen to our feelings and subconscious after death. Actually, I think it was because my grandfather passed away. I'm just a teenager, and I believe these thoughts are simply a result of my lack of life experience. However, since these thoughts have emerged, I have reevaluated death as a process, revised my attitude towards it, and realized that it is better to die in old age after living a long and happy life. Story 154. I wanted to die at 16, but here we are a few years later. I guess I will die whenever, but it would be cool to get to see the year 2100, even though I will be ridiculously old and probably suffering. Story 155. I do not care except maybe I want to see my granddaughter turn 14, 20, 25, 30. That might inspire me to keep living. Story 156. I was in my teens when they created a 100-year time capsule locally. I would like to be around when they open it, maybe around 2125. I was born in 1992. As someone else said, if I live past 2100, I will have lived in 3 centuries. Story 157. Currently 29, but being autistic and socially awkward, no matter what I do, I have no girlfriend. I couldn't even have a girlfriend when I was at my most successful point in life. It's hopeless, and I don't care anymore. I got comfortable being single for the longest time after 3 bad back-to-back relationships within a span of 3 years, and I just get bored of it. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.